What if you could take that risk, make that change, reach that goal, live your best life? Welcome to another episode of the What If You Could podcast, where we get together with amazing experts and everyday people who share challenges, encourage healing, and explore the possibilities that life has to offer. I'm your host, Gary Scott, and I'm excited that you're along for the ride. Welcome back to another episode of What If You Could. This is episode 3 of our podcast with Mark Johnson, author of Scars and Strife. And in this episode, Mark discusses the struggles of the family, the sacrifices that servicemen and women make when they go overseas. Welcome to episode 3 with Mark Johnson. But that's the other thing, though, is the families, like you were talking about. The wives. God bless them. It's not easy on the wives, but maybe they go off and find another lover and do the cheat and whatever, and maybe the men do too, and the women are in service, and the children lose track of their parents and stuff. But as a father and mother, when your son is over, I mean, when he was in Jordan, Zaki and all this shit's going on in Israel and all that. We're like, get your ass home. I don't want you over there when that goes down. You're every day you're worried.
Oh yeah. I mean, yeah. It's it's just we ask an awful lot. Like just I feel that we're very cavalier as to how we commit troops over there. I know a lot of people who, yeah, they're very warlike. Of course, they're not going to go. They're never going to go. Somebody else is going to do it. I know a ton of women who they're always talking about women in combat roles. Well, the women who are talking and demanding this, they're not stupid enough to enlist. I mean,
Right.
they ain't going to do that, but they're going to sit there and argue like cats and dogs um, and I'm not really expressing an opinion on that. Some of the best soldiers I've ever served with are women, but it just bothers me when the people who are pushing these things have no skin in the game themselves.
Yeah. So let me ask you this: how did you come up with a mountain lion?
I've been asked that. After the answers changed a lot. No, well, yeah. But you know, I kind of think I, I've always felt that you can communicate to animals and that they're great healers. And I remember I was going through a bad divorce about 2013, and I'd be getting stressed out and anxious. And my therapist was this dog I had, a big pit bull boxer and something else mix, who was not, he was built like a brick shit house. I mean, he was one of those ones that, like, you put him, he looked like one of those pit bulls that they put on some meme on Instagram for, like, and then this guy shows up. He was one of them, but he was really kind with me. And I remember when I first thought of the idea, I was sitting there typing something for a class, coming up with a story for a class, and he was sitting there. And so I think he was the motivation, because he was just probably a female cougar. I think I had Matilda at 120 pounds, but probably about 100, and he was close to, is probably more normal for a female cougar, for a cougar. But he, uh, I think maybe him. So
Yeah.
about 70% him, 30% I'm not totally sure how. It's just you love cougars. I think we should protect our cougars, because they're like they're the wild. That's wild America right there. And the thought that they're walking around in the city limits of Los Angeles. I mean, I know there's some, yeah,
I think that's what made it so great, because I mean, there's a lot of things it could have been that
yeah,
maybe wouldn't have created what it did create, but
yeah.
because it was a freaking mountain lion, you
Mhm.
know what I mean? It
Yes,
made it more impactful
in a lot of situations.
Well, yeah, I know there's scenes when he's like assisting the mountain lion and things and in escape, and yeah, there's something. If it was a dog or a bobcat or nah, no, but a mountain lion. Now, if you see a mountain lion walking down your street, you're going to remember that. That's a probably a bad day, but yeah.
Do you see a sequel in your future to this to see what
I've
progresses
actually
through
had
Andy?
people ask me that. I never even thought of that. I really, I, hmm, maybe is about the best I could say. I thought of it. Like I said, I didn't think of it. Excuse me. I wasn't thinking of that. And I've had about 5 people say to me, "Oh, you should write. I want to know what happens next." And uh,
You know, there's a lot there. There's a lot left, you know, if you felt it in you, because you know
yeah.
it's gotta be in you to come out of you. But I mean,
Now,
there's a lot there.
that character, there's always a lot in there. I mean, I always, it's funny. My book's starting to sell better now. It's getting better. The sales are getting better because I almost felt like at first, like the first 2 weeks, it wasn't like on the New York Times bestseller list. I almost felt like somehow I had failed Randy, believe it or not. I know he's a character I made up, but I always felt like there was like
You
I
know,
was failing.
it takes it takes time for a book to grab hold, but when it does,
Mm,
it can catch fire. You know, you'd be surprised. You know, I've got some friends and other people that I've interviewed that are authors, and it's funny, it catches them off guard. Um, and the reason I asked about the sequel, because one of these people I know who does a dive book just happens to be an avid diver and just wrote a book about it. And sure as shit, now I think he's got 16, you know, in that line of these characters. It just kept going, right? And but it's funny. He'll write when he'll go, "This is going to be huge. This is my best book yet. It's going to be a hit," and it sucks. No one liked it. And then he'll write one, and he didn't think it was that great, and the next thing you
yeah,
know, it blows up. You know, but your subject, I think it needs to get in the right hands. It needs to get into a lot of hands, and that's why I'm glad we're doing this because I'm gonna do my part to blow it up because I love the book, and I just think
thanks, brother.
it has such a great message. You know, like you know, we're a military family. Um, my wife, I don't think she'd care about me sharing this. She's been sober for 21 years. She's been very involved with working with people in addiction. That's a real tough go. You know, you lose a lot of friends to that.
Oh
And
yeah.
I think it's a story that needs to be told, not because it's just a great book, um, but I think it'll help a lot of people.
Well, I think what's some ways what's kind of unique, and the person who said this was Tod Goldberg. He's this big New York Times best-selling author. He runs that. I got a master's in fine arts and from in creative writing, and he runs the program. He's the director, and uh, Todd was. God, sorry, I just blanked out there for a second. But Todd said basically about the same thing, and I forget. Sorry, I've totally forgot what I was going
That's
to
it.
say.
You know, it's funny because my other son, not the one in the
Yeah.
military, but my older son went to UC Riverside.
Okay. Well, I actually got a master's from there. I always wanted to write, and they have a great program. They have a like the regular program that's part. You go during the day, but I did the what they call low residency. You do a ton of online work, and you have to spend 50 days out in the desert going to classes. So it was a great experience, and I basically got the book pretty much in shape. Well,
Why'd you have to go out in the desert for 50 days?
oh, but it was 5 separate residencies. They would have residencies. Hey, I mean, the way you said it almost makes it sound like I'm on some survival quest out in the desert. Each one of them was 10 days at the Omni out in Rancho Mirage. I can't say I was suffering too much, but we had class and seminars every day.
Yeah, that's where I live. I thought you were like Randy going through ranger training where you were because Zachy did ranger training and I think he went 21 days
Yeah.
and out of 100. He and I think only 8 others finished the 21
That's
days, because I don't think they let you sleep more than an hour a day. You ate every couple days, and they had to do 4 different environments. Like you had to do swamp, you had to do freezing cold mountains, you had to do desert. It was
well, they
pretty
try to weed you out. Yeah,
yeah, it was pretty
they're good at
intense.
it too, weeding you out. But
Yeah, it weeded him out pretty fast. It
yeah,
weeded him pretty fast. But I just wanted to touch on another thing about a book that I like so much, and I touched on a little bit earlier about like the father-son relationship, and then the father and his kids' relationship. Um, it was just such a great book on that, and it touched on the PTSD with the veterans. But I think it also had another lesson in life, a number of different lessons in life. I mean, the relationship with with the gal that he meets in Mexico, Athena, and then his relationship with the cougar, his relationship with his children, the authorities and things like that, how people treated him, the media and things like that, his 15 minutes of fame. It just all seemed to me how you wrap so much together so well. But it also just seemed to have a real lesson for me. I mean, were you going for any specific thing, or it just came flying out of you
I think
like,
I was. I almost think I was subconsciously. I wanted to tell the story, but some of the stuff just kind of crept in there, and then I saw it in there, or people would see read it, and I'd say, well, I should develop that more. I mean, I really tried to even include a. I mean, he's mad. He's mad at his wife, but I guess I can think in my life when I've felt hurt by people and I wanted to get even and all this stuff. Very often, when I was able to settle down and calm down and that, I realized I was able to see my part in that. And very often, we address our part. And the other guy, if he wants to apologize or they want to make amends, that's fine. But you can only clean your side of the street. And that was kind of a message I had. I tried to show in there that he'd been selfish. He had been selfish. He'd been, could have done a lot of things different, but this was a dude, and there's like a lot of them who likes to go to war. I told somebody that recently that there's people when I was going to Iraq, I wanted to go, and they looked at me like I was crazy. I'm like, "Are you kidding? I was in the Army Reserve. I mean, that's what you're there for. That's." And we have a lot of people. They want to go to war. They're willing to do it. The problem is they get really damaged from all of it, and just him. I guess I tried to show a message of redemption and forgiveness that he was able to forgive his wife, and really that was almost the foundation of forgiving himself for a lot of stuff he had done.
well, I felt that, and I felt that was a big part of the story. Um, it really meant something to me because I think that's kind of our society right now, our world right now, our country right now. It's like, shit, if you guys would just all make that
Chill.
call, the guy that he worked with at the cat, reserve
Oh, yeah.
kept beating on him to call his ex, and he's like, "I ain't calling that bitch, no way."
But yeah, no, yeah, that was yeah.
But I think like you said, I mean, you gotta clean your side of the street. We can only meet so far, but I mean, right now, shit, people don't wanna even meet anywhere. People just wanna
Now
just
it's a little
sling arrows
ridiculous.
and
Some guy sits there and has some off-color remark he made 10, 12 years ago or 20 years ago, and suddenly now it's bringing up. I let me say this: I don't drink, but I certainly have spent so much time in bars. I would not want to be judged on every dumbass comment I made over the last 5 years. I'm 66 now. I wouldn't want to be judged. I've said some really stupid things. I've had to apologize a lot of times. Thankfully, I had people in my life when you apologize, we shook hands and moved on, and that was it. Not this new group now. It's almost like we're teaching people not to apologize. Because if you do apologize, you've just admitted guilt, and now they've got you. I hate it. I think we got the greatest country on earth. I think we need to be kinder to each other and more forgiving. But instead, you got all these loudmouths who are just running people into the ground and digging stuff up on you. They just we used to call them like finks and snitches when I was a kid. Now they're like celebrated on social media as like, look, they dug up this dirt, something this guy did 40 years ago.
Yeah, it's really sad. I mean, it really is sad. I mean, I used to tell people I don't drink anymore either, but I used to tell people with my past wife, I'd wake up in the morning and the first thing I said is, "Who do I need to apologize to today?" Because I probably said or did something stupid. I mean, we
Yeah,
all do. I mean, and the
yeah,
thing
we're
is,
human.
it's just like they say, you know, why do we let the 1% control the 99%? You know, it just seems like it's just shifted so far where everyone's so damn triggered. Speaking of, you know, that title of your
Yeah,
book,
sensitive,
but everyone's so
hypersensitive.
triggered, right? It's like you can't do shit.
Yeah. Oh yeah, yeah. Sometimes, but yeah, I don't get it. Uh, I can think it's yeah.
That's why I
It's
think if we all read your book, if we all pick up Scars and Strife, and we see the stages of what Randy goes through, his complete metamorphosis, and I think there's a second one in there because we need to know more. I need to know what happens with Athena.
yeah.
We need to know what happens with her. I like her. I liked her a lot. I think you made her character uh, really good. I mean, men who like strong women, like I do. My first wife was stronger than nails. My second wife is a total bitch. Where are you, honey? She's out here. So my second wife is tough. I love her but you know, strong women are important. The type of women that we're seeing now who think they're strong aren't strong. They just are out there being crazy. But I liked your character. I liked the way you made Athena. She was awesome.
Only if you ask me, if you're some male, I know there's some guys they want some helpless little female. You're going to be spending your whole life doing stuff. Yeah, my wife raised 6 kids as a single mom out of the foster system. She's very capable. And what I like is I always know I have somebody with my back and I've got a buddy and I got somebody that I can depend on. I don't, if you marry somebody weak to build up your ego, all you're doing is buying a lifetime of having to watch and do stuff for somebody. I mean, it's not really a partnership anymore either.
Yeah.
I
Well,
think,
I'll tell you what, it just got so much to go over, but I don't want to take up too whole much of your time. But I always ask people at the end of these things, and I never let
yeah.
them know I'm going to do this because I don't want anyone thinking about it. I kind of like people
Okay.
off the cuff, and I guess I just always ask people the same thing. I go, you know, if you had one message for people, it doesn't have to be about your book or veterans, or it could be anything you want. But if you thought, God, I just have one thing that I just kind of live by or want to share with people, you know, what is that? What's that one thing you just would like to share?
And the reason I was thinking of that, I'll go to Celebrate Recovery, and it's kind of like a Christian-based AA. And we had a guy in there named Brian who would talk, and he was 40 years old, had a meth problem, but he was starting to get his life together. He was living with his mom. He had a lot of unresolved trauma, and uh, he love hated his mother and they used to fight, but I remember he would talk about how things were getting better. And then his mom said one day he came home, he probably had about 3 4 months clean, came home, shut his door, and she didn't hear anything from him, and came in, found him, he died of an overdose of fentanyl. And I guess I would tell the vets out there, don't shut the door. Apparently this guy never shut the door. Don't shut the door. If you got issues, you got to talk about them. There's guys, you know, uh, my M.E. Johnson, Johnson, author at gmail.com. Send me an email. We'll help you. We'll get you help. I just don't want to lose any more vets. And I think the thing is you got to share that stuff. You can't go hide or shut your door or that. Keep the door open. That's how you get the healing.
Man, don't shut that door. Shit, I got goosebumps just thinking about it. No, I'm serious.
Thank you.
That's a
Now
great message. Don't shut that door.
I didn't know the guy well, but I mean, every week I'd hear him sharing, and he'd be talking, and he just looked like a guy who was getting it together. It was his life was starting to come together, and then next thing I hear, he's dead, and just a tragedy. And that fentanyl is like the worst thing that's ever. Uh,
Well,
it's
my wife told me a story. She was dating a guy, and he wasn't doing well. I don't remember if he was Army or Marine.
yeah,
She likes men in uniform. I don't know why she married me.
yeah.
But she said he wasn't doing well, and she hadn't heard from him, so she went to go see him, and she went to the house, and his blues were laid out on the bed. Oof.
Ooh, yeah,
And she knew that was bad because a lot of these guys, when they do themselves in, they throw their uniform back on
yeah.
before they do themselves in, and you probably see that
Yeah.
more than anybody, right?
Well, I don't know if they put. I have seen that, but I don't. The guys in my court didn't put their blues on, but I, like I said, two of them killed themselves, and two died of overdoses. Maybe it was intentional. I don't know, but yeah, I mean, it's sad. I don't, some of them, and because I've known people who the reason I God, if you could just connect with these people, because I have known veterans who've actually gone so far as to pull the trigger to kill themselves, and like they were drunk when they loaded the firearm and it jammed, and or they've got a gun in their hand, who are now leading great lives. They're happy. They're literally happy. I tell you what just about everyone I saw had was a one of those service dogs would start going accompanying them, but yeah, I mean, it can get better. They just gotta. A lot of these vets need to open up. They got to talk and not shut that door.
I love that. I was stupid enough to do that once. It had been about, I think, 4 years after my wife had passed, and I jumped right into a relationship, which is stupid because I hurt that girl, I hurt her sons, I hurt her family, and I compounded everything. I just ran, after my wife passed. Instead of trying to deal with it, I just fricking ran. I mean, I was engaged 4 months after my wife passed from 28 years of marriage, and people like, "Are you an idiot?" And I'm like, "Yeah. Yes, I am." And, I got there, I went in the safe and pulled out a weapon, and I tasted the steel, and and if it wasn't for having all these pictures on the bookshelves and just looking at my sons and going,
Yeah,
they lost their mom. I can't leave them without a dad, and if I tell my boys all the time, "You guys saved my life.
yeah.
If it wasn't for all those pictures you drew up there,
I'll
I
keep them
I
up.
I had nothing to hang around for. I didn't give a shit.
Yeah,
I think that happens with a lot of these vets. They come home, like you said, they don't have a life out there. Their wife's gone, their kids are gone. They don't have a career. Maybe they're soldiers, and
yeah.
they're like,
And
"I don't
I
got
don't want to
shit.
make
I don't care."
I don't want to make it sound like these women are all leaving. Some of these guys come home, and these it's usually men. They come home, and their wives don't even know who this guy is anymore, and they're scared of him. He's violent, and and so I don't want to. I mean, like in a lot of cases, these women will leave because there's children in there, and their safety obviously should be the first thing. So it's like I don't want to make it sound like women are leaving these guys in their moment of need. Most of them are. They just don't know what to do. But they should also be reaching out for help.
Well, I think you touched on that, with Randy
Yeah,
and what they went through. Uh, it's tough. Like you said, we have so much of these men and women in the service, and it's a whole family thing, and many times it's a generational thing. Their dad was in the service, their grandfather was in the service. My son, I don't know. I mean, he ever since he was little, Zach, he wanted to be a soldier. He wanted, and he's like you're talking about. He's one of those guys like, Dad, these Air Force guys are a bunch of pussies. I should have gone in the Marines. And he wants to get in there. Guy, you stop doing that shit. You stay home. I don't want you going over there being a hero. you know, but he just thinks he needs to serve. But since he's been in K-9 and since he's been in Secret Service, hanging around the Secret Service a lot, working for the candidates, he sees things a lot differently.
Yeah,
And
it's interesting.
I think like Randy had an awakening. I
Yeah,
think a lot of these soldiers now are having awakenings like, maybe it's not all that we thought it was, which is too bad.
yeah.
You
Yeah, if
know,
they spread the wealth a little, start getting more a wider group of people. But it's like, sometimes you'll see somebody, some generals being confirmed for some high position, and he'll be there with his family, and it's like got 4 kids, all of them are in uniform. There, I mean, we've got this in this the people who serve are becoming a smaller and smaller segment of society, and it tends to be all the same families uh, doing it. So yeah, I mean, it's hard on a lot of people. We keep drawing back too. The military's about at the end of the Vietnam War, it was about over 3 million. Now it's like 1.3 million. So we're our weaponry is extremely sophisticated, but when you deal with people's psyche and their minds, and we can be very fragile.
yeah, it's tough. But so when's your next book signing? How many more book signings do you have? I want to just get back to that real quick.
Okay, let me see. These aren't exactly the book. I'm not like sitting there at, I don't even know what the big places is. I'm not big. Let me see. Well, okay. The 18th of September, I'm on the Spirit of the IE. That's a show. Then there's a mental health summit in Redlands. I'm like the keynote speaker, and that's the 19th. Uh, I've got a reading at the Sun City Library. Probably the average age in there will be about 75. Of course, I'm not that far off from that now. I hate to say it. That's on the 27th. So I got stuff coming out. I hope uh, I'll shamelessly ask people to buy my book. I poured my heart and soul into it. If you don't like it, I'll give you your money back, and I'm dead serious. And if you're around the area, if you're within 50 miles, I'll be happy to sit down for coffee with you, and we can I'll sign it. So
Are you in Riverside?
I'm in Canyon Lake. I live in Canyon Lake.
Canyon
It's
Lake.
down
Okay.
south about 25 miles. But yeah,
Yeah.
I mean, I'm always in Riverside. I volunteer over at the Veterans Court to mentor some of the vets, trying to help them out. Some of these guys need either a hug or a kick in the ass, and usually a little bit of both.
Well, I'm gonna track you down and I'm gonna get you to sign my copy. That's for damn sure. I'm gonna track your ass down. I want to
Yeah,
see.
well, yeah. I mean, I won't be hard to find. You won't have to keep track.
Well, listen, everybody, I'm gonna put this on it's gonna be on the website, YouTube, Instagram, Facebook, Spotify, I don't know, all whatever, all TikTok. It's gonna be everywhere. Um, it's a great read. It'll touch your heart. It touched mine. Um, you're doing a great job, honestly, Mark. I mean, not just with the book, but your service to the veterans, your service to our country, and just I can't tell you how grateful I am that you gave me some of your time, and hopefully people see this and buy your book. And we're going to look out for Scars and Stripes 2.
Dude,
Hey, that reminds me, who's going to play Randy in the movie?
good question. I don't know. I'm, you know, okay, what's that? I kind of thought of an actor like Aaron Eckhart or something. He's like he's like a badass looking guy. I don't know, somebody like him, maybe.
Yeah.
Oh,
There's an
he doesn't
actor,
know it yet, but
I think his last name's Butler. I can't remember the dude's name, but he was in like 300 or something like he's a
oh,
badass
Gerard
dude.
Butler, yeah. Well, yeah, he ain't bad. Yeah.
Someone with that like face. I mean, it's got to have a dude with like a face like a pit bull, like a Rottweiler. He's got to be a badass dude if he's going to be
Yes,
Randy.
yeah, I agree. All right. Thank you, brother.
All right, my friend. Thank you so much. I
Yeah,
appreciate it.
thank you.
Listen, everybody, get Scars and Strife. You will be glad you did. And what I'm going to do Mark, I'm gonna put we're gonna have your contact information, your email,
Yep.
find you links to the book on this podcast,
Oh,
so
cool.
that once we put it up there, people will be able to track you down if they have questions or want to see you, find out your schedule for book signings or whatever. It'll all be on there. Okay, so
That's
we're gonna
great.
help blow this up because it's worth it.
All right. Thank you, brother.
All right, brother. I'll talk to you soon. Thank you.
All right.
Thanks again for joining us on another episode of What If You Could podcast. Please subscribe, like, share, and give us any feedback. We'd love to hear it. And remember, if you can dream it, you can do it. See you next time.